Cool. Demetri, what's up, man?
What's up, my guy?
What are you
Finally
doing?
made it. I'm doing good, man. What I'm doing, I've just been working a lot, honestly, putting a lot more effort towards music. Hopefully having some songs drop within the next couple months, trying to pick a studio to get into for that. I'm working on a short film with my buddy out in Orange County. So those are like my passions I'm working on right now, just as like basically the theme of the project is like what brings like a group of friends together, you know. And I feel like for men, like especially like kids that come from broken homes, like you always tend to have like this clique, right? And
Of
like
course.
if you look at like the reason you're there,
Right.
it's because like there's stuff going on at home that these friends are fixing for you. You know what I mean?
No,
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah,
offer you
it's
something.
kind of a comfort thing. You go to where you're comfortable, and it's usually because people are either escaping the same thing or you just have similar upbringings. You know, sometimes it's location too. You never know.
Bakersfield, a lot of times it is location.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of secluded to the Central Valley when you're in Bakersfield. What, how many days you have? Do you know?
My clean date is July 1st, 2016.
Congratulations, 2016.
Yeah, 2016. July
That's what's up, bro.
2016.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Been
That's
sober
pretty.
since then.
That's pretty awesome that you're able to sustain sobriety that long. You know, I just hit a year on Friday. So,
Hey, there we
yeah.
go.
go.
Happy birthday.
Thanks.
Big steps, big steps.
Broke out in the song right now.
That's right. They gotta wait for the album to drop for that.
Yeah, I gotta wait for that. How many days you have, Rima?
I guess my date would be August 17th, just 2022. So I think that's 222 days.
Getting there, boy.
Those triple deuces,
yeah,
man.
dude.
Every day, you know what I mean? I just run my program and watch that number keep going up, you know what I mean?
You got a little less than a bill days left, and you almost to that big birthday.
Something like that. Yeah, I'm planning on throwing a little I'm going to do something for mine. People always
was
say it
thinking
comes
about
and goes and
mine
like
too.
it's not a big deal. They think it's going to be a big deal, then it's not a big deal. And I was like, well, it'll be a big deal if I make it a big deal. You know what I mean?
I think fuck that. Like for me, in my sobriety, my first year was the best year I ever had celebrating.
Right,
Like
right.
I would say go out. Like I would say you should plan something like still like now,
Yeah.
like it's still a sober party. My first year, I feel like that is the best year. That's the year you celebrate the hardest. Like for me, in my sobriety, my year meant everything to me. And then
Right.
like every year after that, like coming up on now, like I don't even celebrate it now. I used to have a thing where like I celebrated it and like my friends would get me like a drug cake. Like one year I had a cake that was a Xanax bar. Another year
Yeah.
I had like, you know, a cake that was like served to me on tinfoil that was just a chocolate cake, and like
Right.
just to play on like my sobriety and like haha have fun, like here's another year sober.
The candles of straw.
Yeah, that would have been a good addition. That's how you knew they were normies.
Right.
There was no straw.
Yeah.
But that first year to me, like that's the biggest year to celebrate. Like I remember my first cake given to me like it was yesterday. And I remember like, because back then we still did the traditions, at least like this was more in Santa Cruz of like, when you had when someone had a birthday and you were there while someone took a cake, like if you knew them, like they're supposed to hand out their birthday candles, right?
Oh,
That's good
dope.
luck. They're supposed to use it when that person gets a year, and it's good luck when they get a year and you pass it
To
down.
give it.
That's dope. Yeah,
And
that is
so
dope.
I had one candle and I actually saved it, and I got to use that candle, and so it actually meant a lot to me. Like, so I always live by like that first year. That's the golden year. Like,
I understand that because, like Sam, you know, you just finished your first year, so with this next year coming up, everything that happens, every holiday that happens, every birthday, everything, you've now done it soberly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like I'm still in that first year to where when things are coming up and I'm still like, man, this is going to be my first time celebrating this sober, the first time that this happens and I'm sober, you know what I mean? So I can see how that first year can really just be special. You know, every day is special.
Yeah.
I don't care if you got 10 years, 20 years, because those people also tell you they wake up some days and they're not sure if they're going to make it that day, you know? So every day is special. I don't want to take anything away from that. But the first time you go through things, you know, those are just big landmarks.
Right.
there's something about like overcoming adversity that's enthralling to the humankind. And I think like that first year is like, that's you digging through the mud. You know what I mean? It's hard earned. Like your first year is blood, sweat, and tears, literally.
Literally.
You know, like that's where you're getting cravings like every day, multiple times,
Right.
you know, in the first 30 to 60 days. Like then like 6 months, you're having those sneak cravings, or like now you've gone a couple weeks, you've experienced what a happy's life is like. And then it hits you like out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere.
You know? Well, on your way home from work when you see the liquor store and like you're really stressed out, right? And it's been 2 weeks. So now it's like a lot different of, can I utilize my coping skills when I've taken a break from them from 2 weeks?
Right.
And that's the only thing I would say I like about later years of recovery is like it becomes less of like everything becomes less of an event, and everything really becomes, I don't want to say baseline, but like if I have a trigger now, like I react with a coping skill without thinking
about it.
Like
Yeah, you train for it.
yeah, like my body knows what to do because now it's a habit of doing it, just like it is for me vaping, right?
No, definitely.
Just was it for me using like getting loaded? It's just now like now it's immediately okay. I'm gonna edge surf this one. Okay, I'm gonna ground this one. Like, and it becomes more natural versus like that first year you're having to like, if I have that craving 30 days in, I'm having to think, well, what did my counselor tell me? What did my big homie tell me from the rooms? You know?
Right.
Like, and I'm living off that suggestion and having to like that act of doing that suggestion, because right there you're practicing humility, right? Because you're listening to someone else and like you're realizing you can't do this shit alone because you have to take someone else.
You have to take someone else's advice.
And then so like the act of having to do that and it having to be like kind of an ego death to say like, hey, I'm gonna do this and make yourself do it because I don't want to be this sick anymore. That's where like the effort, the mud, like the grind comes from. Like later on in recovery, it will be like timelines. Like when is your next crisis? Like then it's grind time through that crisis. But unless it's a crisis, I mean, every day tends to be a blessing, you know, as long as you're clean.
Yeah, I've noticed that. The biggest thing I've noticed within this last few weeks and the first year that I have is that my good days are every day. I have good days every day. When bad things happen, they're just moments and they're far and few in between. You know, there's just, but regularly I have good days, and even if I have a bad moment in that day, it's just for a moment. It's not, I know what to do to get me right back to having a good day. You know what I mean?
So you could have a bad moment in your day, but at the end of the day, it was still a good day.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's still, you know, is a good day. You know, plus, well, I was going to say to your point, you know, that first year, you're also coming off the worst day probably in your life, you know, the worst moments, you know, worst month, worst couple of last weeks that you had right before you got sober or got you to get sober. You know, I know that it was like that for me. What was your first few days? Can you recall a time back when you were? How did you get started into alcohol and drugs?
So
because you were more of a drug.
Yes, I was more of a drug addict. Yes, than I was. Alcohol came into my story later and kind of wrapped up my story. But how I got started, actually, even though it was with alcohol, that was the first drug I took into my body, was ethanol. And it really just started, I feel like, at least, like I'm born and raised in Bakersfield, so I feel like I don't have a different story with that. Like I was with the homies and we, you know, had watched his parents drink all their life and kind of party. And then like I had watched all my friends already doing drugs. And at that point, it was weird because I had the motto, like, I don't need substances to enjoy my life. And then like along the line, somewhere switched. And like I decided like, you know what, I want to drink. And so we went and we paid a homeless person, whatever, and got whatever.
Hey, mister.
Yeah, we just hey mistered it. And like I didn't drink normally. Like my friends, like we all, obviously it was like our first time drinking. So we all got ridiculously, you know, loaded.
Yeah, it doesn't take
like,
much.
I was the last one to start drinking. And then from my first time, like I had to watch, we got 2 bottles. I had to watch the second one end.
Had to.
Even though I didn't like it, I didn't like the feeling. And I didn't really get as under the influence. I was a lot bigger kid than them though.
Right.
So like all of them were kind of over it. But I noticed right then, like, why did I have to finish it? And then I didn't care, and it was like a weekend thing, but it was more of when like that like we talk about, right? When we talk about addiction or substance abuse, like it's kind of like a list of lines, right? That you say you won't do, and one by one,
Yeah.
like it
They
becomes
fall
okay.
off.
Yeah.
You cross them. Yeah.
And so then it was like, all right, well, like I'd always loved underground hip hop music, and I was huge into like the music scene and like going to hardcore shows with my friends. So like I started just kind of paying more attention in the scene, and then it was more of like I don't know if I fell out or like I was just interested in cannabis and seeing what it did, and like I started smoking. And the thing about me, like when I tell my stories, like the way I was with my anxiety at that time, because like I had a weird childhood, but at the same time, like it wasn't as bad as I feel like most kids' childhood are, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but your
definitely.
childhood is as bad as you know it. So it was, however bad it was.
Yeah.
It was bad.
So like for me, I had a big thing about like anxiety, and my anxiety thing was like I would talk to someone and there would be like basically my head would run the conversation ahead of time before even though like we were talking like here. So there's 3 different outcomes, and now I'm guiding this conversation and trying to manipulate the situation to get the outcome I think is good.
Right.
Right. And like just to impress people and people please people, because I was self-conscious about my weight and other things. And so I think like that really played a role into what I'm getting to, is when I smoked is right when I knew like, oh, this is what I want for the rest of my life. Like I remember the first day smoking, and I don't talk about the euphoria, but the one thing I can say is like I knew right then and there was peace, right?
Yeah.
Like my brain had never been quiet. And like that's what I got addicted to, was like the peace inside my brain.
Right.
And so after that, like that was when it changed. Like next day I started dabbing, which is just a concentrate. And then by that weekend I had my own setup and was kind of going about business. And for me, so I guess to go into background, right? Like I'm adopted by my dad, and then my dad was a lot younger than my mom. So my mom had a first relationship where she moved out to Russia and married this guy in Russia, and he'd beat her pretty much to death multiple times, and then eventually they divorced. And when she got pregnant for me, but she got artificially inseminated because she always wanted to have a kid. And so when she got pregnant with me, she got the courage to leave and come back to the U.S. and revoked his green card.
Nice.
And so then she met my dad at like the apartments. And so like for me, like growing up, I had like my mom, my dad, and like his grandma suffered from severe, which I'm too, but suffered from severe mental illnesses, and he didn't have the best childhood. And so for me, my mom raised me very well, but my mom's very codependent. My mom had taken care of, kind of gave my dad his life, that what he had. And so my dad was still kind of, due to his trauma, was still a child while raising me. So like for me, like a normal thing, like I was really into video games. Like that was my dad's main thing. I knew all of wrestling and WWE, He-Man, Thundercats, all 80s and 90s pop culture by the time I was 10, but he didn't really give me social skills or like tell me how to be a man or do stuff like that. So leading into drugs, it was kind of like once I got around like my friends or like my big homies, like that was the people that were telling me how to live life on a scale of like how to survive,
Right.
you know? And so I think like that's where like it turned. And then in Bakersfield for me, it was like we had our group, we started using, and then like one of us started selling, and then all of us kind of started selling, and like we would kind of just have a run of the school. And like once I tried, like I think it was like 3 days actually after I'd smoked. So in that week before I'd gotten like fully started a routine use, my best friend had came over named Cam. Might as well put his name in the story because I'll use it in the end. But my homie Cam had came over and he had offered me some Klonopin because my friend had me take some Xanax that my mom had the day before, saying like it'll get me high and I'll like it. And I kind of just passed out or whatever. And he gave me some Klonopin. And that was like right there, that same feeling of like instant love, like that mind quiet happened again, you know, like
Right.
And I feel like every person that falls in love with substances knows that feeling.
Most definitely. Yeah,
It's
most
like
definitely.
where that movie slows down and you're like, oh, like this is where I'm meant to be. But
Well,
you're
it's
not.
like you were saying earlier, our minds go so fast, and all that pre-thinking conversations and kind of like looking into the future tripping on things and just trying to manipulate things, all that goes away.
Yep.
Yeah,
But yeah, I definitely know what you mean there.
Even like, I would even liken it to. I remember the first time. I don't remember the first time I got drunk, but I remember having moments when I was drinking early on before it became an issue of being like of having somewhat of a state to what I feel today right now. Like I
Yeah.
feel good. I feel I feel okay. I'm not worried about talking to anybody.
Yeah.
I could see that when I was drinking too. When I drank and you got to that sweet spot,
Oh yeah.
you know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
you feel good. You don't feel drunk. You don't feel, you just
No,
feel,
you just feel good.
you just feel good. And that's how I feel now, but all the time.
Yeah, it's actually funny that you bring that up because it's funny how like we use substances to self-medicate, but then recovery gives us exactly what we were self-medicating for.
Right.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, because we were always medicating for
That's huge.
the symptoms. You know what I mean? Like we were just trying to take care of the byproducts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We weren't self-medicating and using substances to get to the core problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And we're
So-
chasing that feeling every time. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off,
you're
but
good.
we're chasing that feeling all the time. That same feeling of the way, how I feel today in recovery. I was chasing that. I could never get it again.
Right.
Eventually.
Yeah, after a while, it's harder and harder to get.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's usually what leads us into being thirstier and just wanting stronger and stronger stuff, just to
Yeah.
get back to that baseline.
Crossing those lines, like it's funny because like it has so much stuff that goes into like what makes substance abuse the way it is, right? Like traumas, like what you experience from like the ages 1 to 5, right? Like how much have you isolated yourself like while in your use, like you find to see that it's actually a very like society-based disease, right? Meaning like if you look at each of us at one point, like when you hit your rock bottom, it's normally like that's your last source of like, you don't belong in humanity as it is right now.
Right.
Meaning like when those cuffs set and that freedom's gone, you
Yeah.
realize like,
Yeah.
oh, the country owns me now.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Like you get into an institution and you're being served those meds to calm you down. You realize like, oh, like I don't own myself right
I have no control over my life whatsoever
And then-
anymore. Yeah.
and that's just the good endings,
Right.
like because the last ending you don't get to say anything. And like when we look at that, you look at and see like, has this person cut off like all the people around him that are going to tell them what's right and wrong?
Right.
Or are they surround, like who do we surround ourselves with? Because as much as like as being a teen, right, who like his family were his friends, right? Because like besides my mom and my dad, and then when I was 14, my dad left, like then it was just like I was taking care of my mom. So for someone who didn't really have anyone or a role model, like my friends were everything. But at the same time, like my friends kept me going back to the same me that was stuck with them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's where like I look at my story, like my first time in the rooms, like, so after I had started taking Xanax, I went through the whole selling, drug dealing, and then trying every pill. But my drug of choice at that time was Xanax. And I was taking about 5 to 10 bars. So that's 2 milligrams,
Yeah.
2 milligrams. So 10 to 20 milligrams a day. And then I was doing that for about a year straight. And I'd gotten expelled from school for using the varsity baseball field's announcer's hut for like my little drug lab. And
Well, yeah, man. You're not allowed to do that.
yeah,
You say it kind of nonchalantly, like they should have been okay with it.
no, they shouldn't have been okay with it, but I still kind of feel bad for it because like my dean was looking out. Like it's funny how you can look like back then it feels like everyone's against you,
Yeah.
you know? But then you look back and you see how many people really tried to
We're
help,
rooting for you.
even like the ones you didn't like that were helping you.
Right.
And so like I got expelled from there, and like my dean, like, and I feel so bad all the time when I think about my story because no one liked this dean. Like she always had a bad rap, and like so going in, I was like, man, I don't even want to deal with her. And like she really knew, like she could see what was going on in my life, and she really was like, where do I place you, and like how do I give you the benefit of the doubt, because everyone else is looking at you like you're a piece of shit.
And she's really trying.
Yeah, you know, and she looked at me. You can tell when someone looks at you with like humility, you know what I mean? Then and I feel like that's the difference in love, right? Like, and I guess this is just something I want to touch, is like if you can look at someone without judgment and love that person and meet them where you're at, like that's the love we need back in this universe. You know what I mean? Because I always think about every person that's helped me it's like I've known they're going to help me by the time they look at me, because in their eyes there's like a look of freedom. There's a look of like, it's okay that you're not doing good right now, but like what can we do to bring you up?
I feel like you can recognize that look more, because when you come from a past of addiction, no matter what your substance of choice is, we went for years seeing the other look, the look of disgust, the look of non-trust, the look of disappointment. We rarely see that look of love, like real love, like what can I do to help this person? I'm looking through all the bad stuff that he's doing. I'm looking through his crazy haircut and his tattoos and his apparel, and I'm just really trying to help that person. So I feel like you could recognize that better than like say a normie or somebody could, you know?
Yeah. And I really find that like that moment right there will be, I guess, very important in my story, but I find very important in humanity. So I wanted to highlight it. But so I got expelled, and she was trying to work with me to figure out what school to send me to. And my mom came and picked me up, and she tried to calm me down before I left. And that's how I knew she cared. She tried to calm me down because stuff just wasn't going good at home. My mom was extremely codependent. Like my mom's a number one most amazing mom, you know, but with the relation she had where it's just like a son and a mom, you know, and then the dad leaves and her kind of needing to be on my shoulders sometimes, like that's where my self-medicating started to pick up, right? It's like and it's where I became a people pleaser, right? Because like we look at psychotrauma studies nowadays and like where psychology is going, and it looks like when your home environment's chaotic, or like I've told you guys this, like when a kid like subconsciously, like the parents are being toxic or giving off like toxic traits, like subconsciously the kid will pick up their effort because they realize we need these parents in order to survive. Like whether or not we like our parents, we need them because they provide this house, they provide this food.
There's roles. Yeah, there's roles in every household that have to be filled. I can't remember exactly what they are right now, but there's like 3 or 4 roles that people fall into those. And when somebody's not necessarily taking care of their role, the family dynamic will shift and other people will try to fill in spaces in those roles for sure.
Yeah. And so so this was like about the time like my dad had told us we were leaving. Like when I got expelled, I'm kind of, I guess, speeding up my story. But so he had told me like that he was leaving. And then like a couple weeks later I got expelled because like my use picked up, I guess while I'm fumbling my words, my use picked up because he, even though he said he was going to leave, like he was making no effort to leave the house. He was kind of just like, yo, I'm done with the relationship. I'll still be your dad, but not trying to find an apartment anywhere else, just kind of being like, yo, I'm done with your mom. So,
yeah.
And so like I knew that from that moment I had to be the man of the house. And like, so then fast forward back to this, like, it's just, I think, a day where everything hit me. And so I was wilding out. So my mom picks me up and she tells me like she's going to take me to like a treatment facility. And so I'm immediately thinking inpatient. So I'm like, yeah, you're high as fuck.
Yeah, I'm not going. Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere. Like, you don't understand.
And you're how old right now when this is happening?
15 or 16.
15 or 16?
15 or 16.
Okay.
So I want to say 15, actually. Yeah, because my first time. So basically, I hop out of her car in the middle of the driveway, in the middle of the highway, because she's not going that fast, like 5 or 10, stumble out. And then I call up my homie and I'd steal some stuff to get me picked up. And like by this time, like I'm already on, well, it doesn't matter. I'm very messed up, you know, I'm on a concoction of pills, alcohol, and whatever. And so then we get taken to actually right down the street, you know, Tevis Park. And that's where we meet up. And like, I just kind of go haywire. Like I have all, you know how it is. Like for me, like being so lonely, like with not having any brothers, sisters, or like any outside family, because
Yeah.
my mom's family lives in Michigan, so it really is like every holiday has just been me and my mom. I've had to be outgoing, otherwise I'm gonna be alone all my life. So like I had made all these friends like in my drug community that respected me, so people would come up and give me stuff, you know. So at that time I was already on like Xanax, alcohol, weed. Someone offered me cocaine, started doing it. Someone offered me an oxy, I took it. And the only reason I guess I say the substances this day is because it's one day that's made me believe in God, because I look back and I honestly don't know how I lived through how much substances I intook.
Especially with all the different ones and the different adverse effects.
Yeah, because I'm a garbage can addict. You know what I mean? Like at this point, like I said, those lines, like the only lines I had left at this point was heroin and meth. And I say that because it will come back into my story, and it's important that I say like I was like, hey, I'll never be a heroin addict or a meth addict. Right. I'll only do all these pills and all this other stuff.
Right.
And
you got boundaries.
Yeah, I had a boundary.
I got self-respect.
I'm not one of those.
Not one of them.
And so long story short is like, I don't know what got into me, but I end up taking my mom's car and totaling it. And so then like, of course, like my mom has to charge me with the grand theft auto charge.
Otherwise their insurance.
Otherwise the insurance won't cover it. And so like the officers were pretty happy to pick me up, because my mom would call the police regularly on me when we'd get into arguments, just because she didn't know what else to do. Not that I was like ever aggressive, but just we'd get in these yelling matches, and then I'd want to leave. She know what I was going to do if I'm going to leave, and she found out through her best friend, who, rest in peace, Christy, on my ribs. You know, that was the person that got me clean, if I had to say a person. So she comes in pretty much right now. It's like I get it sent to juvenile hall for like the 4th time. And I was cool with the fingerprint lady, so she would always do a thing where she called my mom and say, you have to come take me up by 4. And so like I'm doing my little manipulation moves, getting her to like think I'm, you know, going through the roughest time of my life.
The woe is me's.
Manipulation we do. And so she comes and picks me up, and then it's not, the important part is 2 days later is like I stopped my Xanax use for the first time in a couple days, and then 2 days later I was just smoking. And like my mom had come home and asked me to help her with the groceries. So I went up and I went to go help her with the groceries. And I was carrying some groceries in, because my doorway is like, say, right here. I'm coming in. I'm only like 5 feet in my doorway. And I wake up on the ground to my mom like screaming and crying.
Oh, wow.
And I just start begging her not to call the cops, you know, because I have stuff. I'm on probation. I have stuff in my closet now at this point. So I'm begging her not to call the police. And so like, I'm just like, you know what? I'm tired. I don't know what's going on. Like, let me get up and like just go to bed. So I get up and I'm walking now, turn left down my hallway. And then like on my hallway, we have our laundry room and we keep the door open. So I basically fall again, but I fall horizontal. I hit my head on the washer. And then my mom has to come get me, and I'm bleeding from my head, you know, and I feel bad. It's the day, like it's my biggest amendment. Like I live every day to my mom, because I just know it will never be unseen. But I even still then somehow like we're so close, talked her into not calling the police, and then kind of she made me stay up, and then made sure I didn't have a concussion. Then I went to sleep, and then it was like right after that, it was like a couple days I was like smoking, and she was like, I would call her to make sure when she got home. And so like I put everything away, and like I'm expecting her to come in, and she comes in all weird and doesn't say what's up to me. I'm like, okay, like
something's going on.
Something's weird, because I know she's going to have to come in and check to see if I'm high or whatever.
Yeah.
And so then two bigger dudes come in through the door behind her, and like they're wearing black, just black shirts and like normal pants. And I'm thinking like, at first, immediately, I'm like, oh, like she's been having someone tell me, like they're undercover. Like this is where
your thought process
weed doesn't play to your favor. I'm overly paranoid.
Yeah, you're overly paranoid.
So I'm like,
she's got a tail on me.
Yep. I'm like, oh, she's got the feds on me. I'm not even. So I think they're like undercover cops. So I go with them into their car, and then like they take me away, and then they say they're just gonna drug test me. And so then that's where I start to like put 2 and 2 together. I'm like, you guys aren't cops, are you? And they're like, quiet. And I'm like, so what's stopping me from getting out of this car and going that way right now while you're driving it, can't get out? And he's like, I would just suggest you don't do that. And I was like, I don't think you know me that well.
Yeah, your suggestion means nothing to me. Yeah.
And then he locked the door, and that was the end of that. So,
Oh, yeah.
so
With the child lock on.
yeah. And it was an old Crown Vic too, so it wasn't like one where I could like really like mess with it and kind of fumble it open. But I think like something inside of me kind of knew, like I wasn't ever like, even though I was so for me, like my mom had raised me very polite. I was still very polite to anyone around me, except for like people my age, I think, due to like, I didn't think I had low self-esteem, low confidence. So like, if I didn't think you liked me, I'd rather have you fear me than not like me, because at least that means I got power over you.
Yeah.
So, but to everyone else, I was really respectful because my mom has just raised me that way. My mom's told me she's a pacifist since I was young. I've seen my mom drink once, and it was a champagne toast at a wedding.
Right.
And like, so I was really polite. So something kind of just, I didn't want to make their days bad. And so they told me they're just going to take me for a drug test. And so by the time we hit the Grapevine, I was like, man, I am.
The Grapevine. Yeah,
I
it's
saw
over.
the hills, and I was like, yeah, I'm going somewhere.
Yeah.
And so that was where it was ended up. You can pay people to come pick up your youth if they're under the age of 18 and have them taken. And so what they would have done is they would have zip tied me and taken me in either way. So I ended up going. And I remember walking in, and they had every staff that they could have on scene there because
just waiting for you. Yeah.
Yeah. At this time, like I was a lot bigger even than I am now. I want to say I weighed more than I am now. So probably like 6 foot 200 at 16, you know. So like I'm pretty beefy, big enough to even juvenile hall put me in 200B just because of your size. Yeah, not even because of my crime. So
I was in 200B.
Yeah, 200B is a unit, bro. I was actually talking about that unit today. I like 200B. I don't know why. I think I was in there with good people, but I look back at juvenile hall.
You got fond memories.
Yeah, I actually do, except for like one. There's always that one. But so I get up there and like and that kind of like, that's where the only reason I say that is because I feel like that's not a good technique, you know, like because right then it felt like, oh, you're looking at me just like everyone else looks at me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like an animal. And so like I remember she offered me a Snickers, and that's what calmed me down. And then like after that it was cake. And the only reason I've gone this far into the story is like that night was also my first Narcotics Anonymous meeting. And so like they told me like, oh, well, cut that part out because I did.
Yeah, no, you got it.
So break. So they take me to a 12-step meeting, and you know, they explain me the process of it and how to go about it, and I kind of like don't understand or have no concept of like what this is like, because I've only been in Bakersfield streets, you know, or my home. And so so they take me, and I mean I sit there, and it was like I didn't feel weird or out of place. It was like I felt like that peace, but in an uncomfortable sense, if that makes sense. Like I felt that peace that that self-medicating gave me, but it was like uncomfortable yet. And so like that's kind of like that sign of ambivalence. Ambivalence means like pulling from both ends. Like I want to get clean, but I don't want to get clean because like I can't handle the thinking about my friend's death anniversary, stuff like that, right? And so like I don't really have any specific memories from that one, but except for the people that were at those meetings played a larger role in my sobriety. Like those people I met at that, it's funny actually now I think about that. Those people I met at that fellowship that day were in my sobriety up until like maybe 2 years ago.
All the way from the jump. So you're talking 5, something,
more like 6 years, you know, because they were with me through my relapses too. So it was crazy how like that rehab worked. But I mean, I was angry and upset for a little bit, and then slowly like the seeds were planted, and it wasn't like I knew I wasn't going to get clean. Like I had already kind of had that in my head, you know, because remind you, this is my first inpatient. I'm 16 years old, you know, and I'm from Bakersfield, California. And
that doesn't help.
Like, you know, my best friend, like, just like our situations, like we've been surrounded. Even when we got into drugs, we then realized we were surrounded by drugs even before we knew it. You know?
No, yeah.
And so like realistically, I just didn't see a way, but like I had kind of wanted to. This is where like the spark kind of wanted to. But then I had someone else come in for Bakersfield, and that's where like that part of treatment didn't go so well, right? Because that person was, you know, with a different set of peoples, right? And so then I started getting more involved in like different set of peoples and politics than I would have than I was normally in, right? So like that's when once he came in, then it was like that was the first time like I thought about doing heroin, and that showed like the progress of my use, right? Because like I said, I was diehard, like I would not be a heroin, I would not be a meth addict. But if you put someone who needs substances in a room for long enough, you know what I mean, our mind, I'm start to becoming down to do anything.
You're gonna entertain the thought of that giving you that feeling that you're looking for, you know?
Yep, like I was just like I knew I was an addict because when they were explaining like meth and heroin to me, I was like, damn, why haven't I tried this shit yet? You know, instead of thinking of like the consequences, like what it looks like, I was thinking like, oh, there's a euphoria that's better than what I was thinking. Like, maybe I was just judging these people, you know?
Exactly, yeah.
And that's where I knew like my addict thinking was like full blown, you know? And so I'm deathly afraid of needles. It's the fear that I feel like saved my life. But
I agree with you 100%.
People say because of my tattoos, it is completely different. Like I'm scared of any needle that goes more than like 3 layers of skin.
It's getting tattoos and getting shots are two totally different things. Yeah.
Completely separate ball games. So like that saved my life right there. But I say this to paint the picture of the desperation we're willing to go to, the lengths we're willing to go to get high, right? Is like, I remember pacing this rehab room, which is about a room the size of this, except plain with just 2 dressers and 2 beds, you know? And I'm pacing back and forth, and I have a roommate, and I'm talking to him, and I'm telling him I'm going to do it, you know? Like, and me just sitting there thinking about what that euphoria could be and that I might feel a euphoria again while like there's nothing around me and I'm not practicing coping skills. It was only digging me deeper and deeper. So then I was down, and by my higher power, whatever, the next day when he was going to go give me the shot, like someone had stolen it.
Oh man.
And we couldn't find it, and it was like completely gone. And so like he ended up sneaking other substance in there. Like we ended up relapsing a couple times while in the program. At least that treatment facility. But we came out and we pretty much told we were going to link after. And so for a while, right after that one, I got put into another program, but Aspire wasn't a thing yet, right? Yeah. This was the only one in town, and it was an outpatient treatment program. And so like I got put in there and I was the only adolescent in there. Like, so when I showed up for group, it was just me and the counselor.
Right.
And that's where I met like some people that are still in my life today. But I wasn't living clean like when I went there. Like as soon as I got back, I stayed clean for a couple weeks because I didn't want to be, I think I didn't want to lose. A thing for me was like, I never wanted to disappoint my mom, you know, because that's the only person I have left.
Of course.
But at the same time, like, I think the pain of what I was going through and then not really having anyone to actually like tell or describe, like kept pushing me to be like, well, these people understand more. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, I don't remember when, but I'll say this. I remember, so this is where, like I said, this day is where the biggest barrier is broken, right? Like the last barrier is broken. So like now I'm coming back. I have the seeds planted from Narcotics Anonymous, right? But I'm not lit. That again, my bad. So I have the seeds planted, but I'm not living them, right? I'm not practicing any spiritual principles. I'm not calling anyone. I do not have a sponsor. I do not have sober support.
Yeah,
right?
You're in a bad place.
So the only thing I have is like I go back to Santa Cruz for meetings, right? Like because they made me feel so comfortable. So like my mom would go and pick my homie up. Like sometimes I would chill over there with him, his set, whatever, and then like we'd pick him up. So this time we picked him up. We went over to the east side and met at the Carl's Jr. And when I picked him up, he just kind of had this smile on his face, you know, and I knew right then and there, I was like, oh, like everything we had talked about being roommates in our rehab is like true right now in this moment. And I've had a couple moments like that. And so we go out to Santa Cruz, and I tell this story, right, because we have to be real of a thing called, incomprehensible demoralization, right? Which is like the stripping of our morals while using, but to a point of like, we don't even register how far we gone or how much we don't want to accept what we're doing, So we go to this meeting. It's probably my biggest regret in recovery. But we go to this meeting, and like outside we see our other homie Tanner from Inpatient, and we're like, hey, we're gonna go on a walk. And like, so he comes with us, and like that's where he breaks everything out, and I try heroin for the first time, and then I smoke a gram of spice, and then I go into the meeting, So like I'm living now the complete opposite of every suggestion everyone has told me already. Yeah. But I went in there as a 16-year-old that didn't care about the program, and so now I'm reaping what I sowed. Right? It's like if you don't pay attention, if I don't care, like I'm not gonna care about myself. They'll still care about me.
They'll still care about you.
They still let me in the meeting. They didn't say one thing to me. It was still all love afterwards, and like I went home, and like but that guilt sat in me, like that guilt sat in me, like you did that, like, cause it was like I had lied about my time, already even. What happened is like the first time I met Jess, right? Like, because there's some people that are in my story that I'll probably, she wouldn't care. So like her, I met because at that same time I went to this first facility, I went to this outside group at a school near here just for teens, at-risk teens. So it wasn't under any fellowship. It was just for at-risk teens. So I went there, and like, this is where we talk about like ego comes into play in the disease, right? Is like, I went there and pretty much self-snitched on myself because I was like, oh, I'm this, I'm that, I'm chilling over here, right?
I'm big and bad.
Like, yeah. And like, for some reason, like at this point was so delusional, like I basically flexed like that I tried heroin.
Oh,
and so
man.
Then I go to group one day, and no one's there. Like all the lights are turned off. Like all the papers are gone. Like I go to check one of the counselor's snack drawers. Even the snacks are gone out of the snack drawer. And I'm like, yo, what's going on? She comes out and she's like, yeah, there's not really any. The counselor comes out and she's like, there's not really anything for us to do. There's been a huge change here at the facility. And like we're going to have to take some time to get used to it. So then I come back next week and I see Jess, and I'm like, oh fuck, what is she doing here?
Right, because you just dropped that flex in front of her. Yeah.
And I'm doing heroin on off days because I know I'm getting tested one day a week.
Right.
So I'm living my life very unclean in this like methodical system to make sure, because that's where we talk about our use becomes like the more we put in more work to keep up our use than anything else in our life.
Oh yeah, it's exhausting.
And so then like I see her and she's like, oh no, that's our new program director. I'm like, oh, okay. So she runs this place now. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, let's see you lie about that time now.
Yeah. So long story short, she calls me out on it right away. You know what I mean? Yeah. If you know Jess, like Jess lives recovery. So like you need to call people out, So she calls me out right away, and I try to do the whole play. And I was not a good teen at this time, I was very angry about different stuff. So there's like one counselor I know I still owe amends to. I want to say I might have made him because I did see him one time, but I still need to act upon it. But like they had me test, and I was. Like once again, incomprehensible demoralization. Like I would never talk down to someone the way I am now, especially a counselor or disregard or say the accusations I was saying about this man. Yeah. You know what I mean? But like I was letting him have it. Like, oh, you're weird for wanting to go in the bathrooms with me. Blah, blah, blah.
You tried to light him up.
Yeah, just lighting him up.
Oh,
like, I was that teen. That's why I like working with teens, because I was the hardest teen to work with. So I feel like there's no teen that's harder to work with than me. So so long story short is I ended up getting kicked out of there because I got into an argument with my original counselor. And Jess just kind of kicked me. Well, I had graduated, and then I started smoking again immediately after. Someone had went back and told them, so my mom brought me back, and then I got kicked out. So just for the full factual story, I guess. And then I go And then pretty much like right after that is like, so on that fight night, right? I fight with this counselor. My mom picks me up. We're now into a argument, right, in the car all the way home. You know, because it's just me and my mom's now. My mom went and got my dad an apartment, so he's finally living separate, right?
She had to,
She had to go
Yeah,
get it for him.
Yeah, my mom had to. She didn't pay for it, I don't think, but she had to go and actually get the listing. Like
Do the legwork.
Hey, go show up at this time and go put this in because like this isn't fair that you're living here and you don't want to be with us. And so yeah, that was kind of the story throughout. Now, I mean, my dad tried. And the only thing I'll say that sucks is in any divorce, I feel like no matter what, a parent will try to use, you know, like you feel like you need to pick a parent's side, right? And like in any case, you don't need to. And that was the only thing I would say looking back on that now, or if anyone sees this that's going through that, is like, you don't have to pick any side. You can love both and spread love both equally. And it's not your job to be the parent for both of them in that situation. But like my mom handled it beautifully. Like my mom's a champ, you know? So
it says a lot about her to even do that, you know, to say, you know what, you know, I'll go get you the apartment, you know, you don't want to be with me, but yet she's willing to go that route, you know, instead of her saying, no, you just can't be here anymore,
Just
and throwing
get
him
out.
on the street, which she had every right to. She, you know, so it says a lot about, you know, I think if your mom were to hear all this, it is a good testament to you know, you get a real sense of how good her character is.
Yeah, like my mom is hands down the most innocent person I know in this world, like genuinely. Like she still, like I would say up until 4 years ago, would have like thought like the world is like all rainbows and like and like fuzzies, you know? Like my mom is just, she's short, like you would not expect her. She's 5 feet tall, like very short. Like I said she's been a pacifist since I was young. Like my mom's worked as a special ed teacher for over 40 years, you know, retired as a special ed teacher in McFarland. So, and like, we always liked going out and doing, like, we had always been a type of family that rooted for the bottom person. You know what I mean? Like we knew what it was like to be at the bottom. My mom didn't like high school, was voted class pest in her high school, and like had a lot of like trauma with her family. Her family was not good. And like, that's one thing that, since we're on the subject of my mom, like baffles me about my mom, is I do not know one person that can go through so much as like an abusive, you know, taking hits for her mom, being abusive childhood, helping her sisters, abusive first husband, like fleeing back from Russia, having to deal with cops not really helping them in another country, you know, and not holding any resentment or anger towards any of that. Like she really doesn't. Like even to this day, like my girlfriend, we do tarot readings, and like even still to this day, she asks about like her first husband, and more so just to see if he's still alive. You know? And mind you, I would, you know, like I don't like this person. I don't want to hear
obviously. Yeah, right.
Like, but yeah, my mom has just always been the sweetest kind of person, and so that's really rubbed off on me, and it's like a core foundation of our household.
That comes through, especially, you know, when we have you and we have you in group. That does come through. You know, the way that you talk and how you try to ask the right questions. To draw whatever is really happening on the underlying.
It's kind of a throwback to what you were saying way earlier about that look you get from somebody that really cares. Because, you know, sometimes you'll run some of the groups and things like that. And, you know, we give you a little bit of shit here and there about, you know, a time running long and us being there a little late. But nobody really cares. We're just a bunch of guys talking shit. But, like, you want to not just let things brush over. You want to actually make them better. Spend the time. So that's what Sam's saying, where you can kind of see those attributes your mom had that kind of rubbed off on you in a good way.
Yeah. Like I take a lot of inspiration from my mom in everything I do, and the fact of she really taught me how to love, you know what I mean? And I don't think many people know how to love like the way my mom knows how to love in this world, as in like love everyone. It doesn't matter what anyone wants to do, what anyone believes in. anything about anyone. Like everyone is the same, and the world would change if we all just loved each other and treated each other that same way. You know what I mean? With like that genuine love. Like, let me pick you up when you're knocked down. Like if you see someone on the side of the street knocked down, pick them up. Pick them up. Like I've lived all my life chasing dogs down with my mom just to rescue a dog, like let alone a dog, let alone a human, you know? So,
Yeah.
like my mom has always taught me, like the moment you judge someone, you are no different than anyone else in this world.
Yeah.
Right.
So for me, it's like all love all the time. And like another big inspiration would be like her best friend and she taught me more of like what we talk about in recovery, which is like the straight up stuff we need to hear, right? Like the cutting the bullshit. Because my mom, like I said, she's so sweet, right?
She sugarcoats some stuff.
That I can play her game all year long. You know what I mean? And it wasn't until her best friend came in, saw what was happening, and was like, "No, you need to do this." Like, no, he's doing this. Like, showed her tough love because she didn't know tough love, and in the dynamic she was in, she couldn't really give it. So that's when she was actually the first person to talk to. One of the monsignors at the church that got me into the rehab that I was in. And she stayed there throughout. Like they had multiple interventions. Like they had a cop pull out all my clothes and everything from my room and like my bed and everything. And that was like the 1 week I stayed with my dad.
No,
and
man.
like, yeah, but it was all out of like showing you that everything's a privilege. You know what I mean? Like I didn't realize like everything was a privilege. Like I didn't realize what a privilege was until I got locked up. You know, once the freedom was gone, I was like, oh, okay. You come out and you see the world a lot shinier and you see what privilege is. And so I look back at like the stuff she did, like taking my clothes or like she would come over and always have like some comments to say about like me being lazy or whatever. And I look back at them now because she's passed now. She passed along this year. And I think like, you know, all she wanted, like she was being the dad I didn't have, you know what I mean? Because a dad, like you think about like your dad is normally the one that pushes you to
a little tougher. Yeah.
Without that, I mean, like a lot of the stuff I was doing in the household, like we talked about roles, like I was handling like the protection, the stuff like that, but I was negating the cleaning up after myself, like the cleaning the bathroom, and she would come in there and keep me up on that because when you're basically, you know, your own parent, because my mom works a lot still, you know, you neglect a lot of the stuff or you don't learn or you think you can get away with stuff. And she would be the rock and be like, no, this is how it needs to be in this order. And
you respected her enough to listen.
Yeah.
Eventually.
I didn't like her, honestly. I'm being honest.
Yeah, because she's testing. She's trying to straighten you out.
Yeah, she was my mom's friend. I never liked because she always had like opinions about some, or she was always. But she's also the first lady to take me to like Social Security 5 times to get my name changed. You know, when my mom was at work, took me to try to get my license 3 times because that took me like 8 tries. You know, like she was the first person that when I get to like the end or like when we wrap this up or like when we talk about it, like when I was at my lowest in sobriety, she was the only person to realize like, oh, I'm worried about him. Like, oh, I need help. Like that look, you know, and I'd never gotten that look from her. Like I got a loving look, but it was like a love, like shut up and do this because it's good for you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like stop being your own mess.
Right.
Like this look was like, oh, like I need to be worried. And so then I knew right then and there, like, it was like weird how like, cause it was one of the last days I saw her too. It's weird how like you go through someone's life and you might not like someone at first, but then you go back and as soon as she was worried about me, I realized everything she had done in the past was all out of love. It was like my assumption that had made it so negative in my mind. You know, a lot of the negative things we have come from ourselves.
Oh no. Yeah. They're a reflection back into ourselves.
Yeah. And so, where was I at with the story? So basically,
You come out, you go to that, you get kicked out of your last group.
okay, yeah. So on the ride home, me and my mom are arguing. I remember this specifically. This is the one thing I was worried about having specific memories for this episode, but we're driving back towards like this side of town and we stop at that Target over there and like she's like, I'm gonna get a frozen pizza. So what do? I leave it out of the car while she's going to get the frozen pizza because what better time and I'm a teen and we're arguing and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna walk.
I'm gonna escape this.
I'm gonna be dramatic.
Right.
And on my walk home, but I knew what I was doing. You know what I mean? Because we talk about, like, you guys have heard me, when we talk about relapse, the relapse happens way before you pick up. You know what I mean? So for a good example of that, right, to have a video example would be like, my relapse started the moment I started that argument and heard them say, you're out of here. Right. My relapse started there because I knew you're not going to be accountable for me no more.
Yeah.
You got no way to keep me locked. Perfect. Right. So my relapse started there. So everything, the argument with my mom, the egging her on more, the not just being calm and like saying I'm sorry and being respectful, everything there was to lead me back to getting high again.
Definitely.
And so when I left the car, then I walked to a park. Well, I see like, it's like now like 10 o'clock because groups from 6 to 9. It's like 10 o'clock. I see someone with a flashlight looking at like rocks in like a plastic bin. I'm like, yeah, there's no way you're sober.
There's no way. Yeah.
This is the type of addict I was at the time. Is I literally walk up and I'm like, do you have any drugs on you? Like anything to get high. I will do anything. And I hear Demetri. And
oh no, not your name.
Yep. And it's my homegirl that I had in like 8th grade that had a substance abuse problem back then, but we never knew. But we would just all play pool together and swim and like hang out. And now I knew when I saw her and I was like, oh, so what's up? And I was like, so do you? And, you know, she gave me half a Xanax. And then right from there, like I said, like for me, it's like the moment it touches my tongue, I'm a different person.
Right.
You know, so I had it. And then like, it was like, okay, I know what I'm doing. Like I've already given up. I'm back on the wheel bus. So let's see how far we can go this time. And so like I go home, normal thing. And then this is how like when I tell my story, I like to paint a picture of what it's like. Right? Like the good, bad, and the ugly. I'm not here to look perfect. I wasn't perfect during this time, you know? Yeah. So what I did, right, to paint like how delusional I was is I was like, okay, basically I want to do drugs again. If I get my mom convinced that these people are people that are keeping me sober, she ain't going to ask me about them. So that's what I did, right? And like that speaks on like the manipulation that goes up here. Because mind you, I'm only 17 at this. I'm only like, I think still 16 at this time.
Yeah.
So like, my disease is making me think on manipulation on levels I really shouldn't be thinking on already.
No, of course not.
So, like...
I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was going to say that the one thing it also did was you picked up right where you left off.
Yep.
You know, you started right back to the manipulation.
Yep.
And to get you where you wanted to go.
Yep. Right there. Like every time I had gotten sober and then went back to using, it wasn't like I had to like regain my progress. It was like, no, I picked up, like you said, right from where I left off and I went 10 times harder, faster. Right.
Yeah.
So once again, like I'm already a heroin addict now at this time. Right. I had my little heroin stage and then I got cut off from it because of Jess. And so then, right, like her drug of choice was meth. Right. And so now it's a lot different. Because I'm still like, yo, I don't mess with meth. You still
have that line, right? You still have that line, yeah.
I will not mess with meth. And so I'll tell it later. But so eventually I'm chilling with her every day, right? And I'm just doing Xanax, right? I'm just doing Xanax and smoking, doing Xanax and drinking, then she's whippets, like whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And so the thing about like pills and stuff like that, or alcohol too, is when you black out or the more you get closer to that stage, the more you make decisions that aren't you know?
No, for sure.
So I don't remember doing, that's the sad part is I don't remember doing meth for the first time, but I remember right before I was about to do it. It's like we're all in a car and I was like, you know what? Rack me up 1, 2, because I was just that gone already. And then like, I don't remember anything, but the next day I remember waking up with some in my wallet and going to school and starting in the bathroom at school, you know what I mean? Because for me, it wasn't like I ever built up to like using a drug. Like, it was like, okay, like once I've started.
Once you do it, you're in there.
Yeah, I'm starting in the morning. I'm doing it in the bathroom at school. Like
That's how it always was for you too, because you said You smoked, and by like 3 days later, you had your own dab kit set up, ready to go.
So for me, it was like I always just super rocketed on, or like fixated on anything. Like for me, drugs were like skateboarding. It was like an obsession. I had to know every trick. Like I would know the milligrams that a doctor would give to like the milligrams to get you messed up. Like that's how obsessive this disease is, right? It's like I obsess over every aspect of this now. I obsess over getting it. I obsess over what the quality of it. I obsess over like the ritual of doing it. I obsess over like the time I have while I am under the influence.
Right.
And then I obsess about how to get some more when I'm broke again because I'm not doing anything but that.
Yeah,
you know?
constant loop.
And it's just this loop, yeah. And so then, right, like I remember seeing this documentary in high school about Chris Herron, who's in recovery. He's a basketball player that played for the Boston Celtics. And I remember in class in high school, I was under the influence and I'd said that was when I had made that boundary. I would never be a meth addict or a tweaker, right? So this goes into pain now, right? Is like eventually my mom catches me up on like my lie, right? Like I left like something over there and she went and talked to her mom and her mom was basically like, yeah, your son should not be with like hanging out with my daughter. Like 100%. Like I promise you whatever they're up to is not good and not what he's saying.
Yeah.
And so in my first treatment facility, like I said, that look that we kind of talk about, the theme of this episode, like I have a second mom named Jessie, and she was a counselor at that facility, and like she was just like a super mom. Like she has 7 kids. Like whenever she came in, she was the best counselor. Like she loved each one of us like her own kids, and she would make the best food. And we still cook together because she makes the best enchiladas I've ever made, like 100%. Like,
that's right.
And Navajo tacos. And so I like as a joke was like, yo, what are you getting me for my birthday when I get out of here? And she was like a puppy because she had a bunch of these puppies at the time. She was just trying to get rid of them.
Yeah.
And so like I held her on that. I called her.
You're like, where's my puppy?
Yeah. I called the rehab like months later and was like, yo, where's my puppy? So we stayed in contact. Like, and that's where like talking about aspects of sobriety, that's my first sober support. You know what I mean? My real first one, and still like rock solid to the day, like partner in life. And so like when she had called my second mom, right? Because no matter if I got too messed up, right? Because there's some stories I left out. Like me and my dad got into a physical altercation because the cops were called and the cops couldn't arrest me. So they told my dad, you know, you might as well lay the hands on him.
Do what you got to do.
I was a lot bigger than my dad. So like stuff got out of hand, not in a good way. And it really like, I guess like in short, yeah, like it just wasn't good, you know, and I had hurt my dad and I had kind of done some very off the wall and threatened some very like terrible things that I would never wish upon anyone, you know. And so like when I was in that stage of anger, you know, I don't know what it was from. No one could get me out but her. Like for some reason I could be blacked out and like my second mom could call. I could not be mean to her even if I wasn't there like physically in my body. Yeah. And so so I'd got a call and I was out in like the riverbeds like on a sick one, you know, like someone was getting their heads buzzed. Like it was cool, like, you know, like tweaker encampment status. And I get a call and my probation officer had stopped caring about me and he had stopped caring if I checked in. He basically told my mom like, if you want him drug tested, bring him and I'll drug test him. Other than that,
we're not going to chase you around anymore. Yeah.
So she basically had my second mom call and say like, your mom's either going to take you to probation officer and have you drug tested, or I'll come pick you up. I'll come from Palmdale because she lived in Palmdale. I'll come from Palmdale and bring you back to your rehab in Santa Clarita. And I was like, well, obviously I don't want to go back to juvenile hall. So take me back to the rehab. Right. So long story short, I go back to the rehab and my second mom breaks down crying at this place called Chronic Tacos, which is my favorite place to eat in Santa Clarita, because like I'm a big boy, so like my normal meal there would be like a burrito and 4 tacos, right? Like I smacked like half a taco because I was so on how much dope I did that like it had broke her heart, and it was the first time I had kind of seen like someone else besides my mom like the heartbreak in him. So like
how much
that
it
pain
actually hurt her. Yeah,
that pain like sobered me up a little bit. Like it stuck with me. And like I went in there knowing like I didn't believe you could get clean. Like that was my mindset going to this. I'm happy while I'm here. I get help while I'm here, but I still go back to the same shithole where nothing changed. And like that's where like I wasn't taking responsibility for my program yet. You know what I mean? I was seeing the fruits of the program and like what it could offer, but was not thinking it was attainable for myself.
Right.
And so I go back to this facility, and like really the only thing special about this time, because I know I'm taking a while, is like there's this one counselor that comes in and he's about 20, kind of like me.
Yeah,
and he's younger and he's clean, and like we have pretty much the same exact story. And like I go out and like I'm talking to like one of the other people that was in there at the time, like, you know what, I think I actually want to be clean. Like I know I've been saying I haven't, but I think I do.
And you meant it.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Like I had felt like something kind of wash over me, but I genuinely meant that when I said it. And so every time that we started doing group, I listened. You know, every meeting I went to, that's when I started partaking. I started making myself known. You know, like I'd met people in there. I started nourishing those friendships. I started,
right.
you know, I got a commitment while I was in there, right? Like, you know, like there's things in place that lessons I needed to learn that were being offered, but I wasn't willing to put in the work to get them. And so I started to put in the work. Now, I was still living my program, I'll say at that time, not the fellowship or another program or how I was supposed to. And that's the key of where I'm at in my stories. Now I want to get help, but I want to do it my way. Right? And so then I get out and I'm told I'm going to this new program called the program we all, you know, go to today. And it's a new one. And so I go there. I'm one of the first 3 teens there. And, you know, they start working with me, and, you know, I have the same counselor I had originally there before he left. And same people. And so we all start working together, and it's a great time. It was like, three people in there. One of them was my friend since kindergarten. So like we had it made. It was a good group. And then I graduated, and same thing. Like day I graduated, like had that reservation, had that like knew I wasn't gonna get a drug tested anymore, and like I want to smoke, and I think I can smoke. You know what I mean?
The lack of accountability, man.
It was lack of accountability, and then like I said, I was working my own program, so I thought I could still handle things on my own.
Oh yeah.
You know? So I left being like, oh, I can handle this. I've learned my lesson with this, and this. And
do you say that in like terms of like cross addiction? Like you weren't like you could handle certain situations, or you could handle certain substances?
So like so at that time I knew if drugs enter my system, besides what I thought back then, weed and alcohol, I cannot do those drugs and not want to do them every single day. Like I knew that about myself. Like that's what I love about one is like we talk about allergy, right?
Yeah.
Like, cause I can feel that allergy. It's like I legit have one taste of the substance, and it's like my allergic reaction is I want that shit every day, all day fucking long. You know what I mean? Like, and so I knew at this point, with drugs, if I do them, I can't stop. Like it takes me going somewhere.
Yeah,
but weed's okay.
Yeah,
and alcohol's.
But weed and alcohol is okay, right? Because even though I'm going to group and I'm going to these meetings, I'm still going back to my same set of friends, right? I'm still hitting licks sometimes. I'm still like, because now I'm living kind of getting my high through the streets, and really more of just like the street activity,
right?
You know? And so I'm still committing crimes, like doing stuff with the homies that like, but staying sober through it. But every time I do that, it's still causing me to live in that life, live in those morals, and watch them all get high, which like I thought I was cool with. You know, everyone thinks you're cool with, but you know you're fighting that trigger deep down. I would just fight triggers, and then eventually like it would fold.
Playing with fire.
It'd become normal. That's the biggest thing about chilling with people that use it. Is it becomes normal, right? Like, cause they talk about it normally. They talk, oh, hey, Friday night, you want to go drink, right? Like it becomes like a normal thing to where you don't realize how bad it is, because to them it's not bad, but to me it's deathly, you know, and that's the difference.
And I was going to say that in regards to weed, you know, I'm sure during that period of time, I don't know exactly when it started becoming mainstream. I just don't remember the days or the years, but at some point in this, weed is probably, if it wasn't already, it is becoming mainstream.
Yeah.
Like alcohol is.
Yeah. It's not dope anymore. It's just, legal. It's,
What's funny is
and you got a bunch of people talking about how recovery, you know, that's one thing that, because I get onto, I search these things all the time. I always see, well, weed is what's helped me get clean. You know, weed
You
is,
see that a lot. Yeah.
I see that a lot. I see, well, I have a drink here and there, but I don't, I can't do this drug or whatever, so people try to normalize it, and society really has let it go mainstream to where, everybody does it. I mean, grandmas do it.
Yeah.
Actors, baseball players, it's not just the couple of basketball players that do it. It's not just the couple of, you know what I mean? Like
it's definitely not a niche drug like we're talking about. Yeah.
It's a global thing now. And I think, so I kind of have, so like with alcohol, right? Like for me, like when I think of alcohol, like one glass of wine is apparently healthy by a doctor, right? One glass of wine
apparently
isn't healthy for me because I can't do that one glass.
That's the thing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the only problem. Yeah.
That's my moral of it, right?
Sure.
It's like those people can do it and it's fine to be mainstream for them. Does it make it hard for me? Yeah. But like for them, it's not deathly. For me, it's deathly. And it's knowing
that's where the allergy comes in for us.
Yeah. And it's knowing like, because I used to get resentful, honestly. Like I used to really want to drink regularly or do things regularly, and my scope now in my recovery has changed. Like before, I used to think like it has to be dead set across the board, like all the time. I've ran into some circumstances where I can say like a harm reduction model, so say like a facility where people can smoke or whatever.
Right.
Like there are some of those where I believe sure there's positive work going on. Do I feel like it would have been beneficial for me? No, because like I feel like it keeps me on the same wavelength, right? Like you need a period of abstinence to get your head clear, and like I've seen people that have had that period of abstinence and been able to go back to using regularly, and they've been fine. I'm just not willing to test it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like my view of
I've
things,
tested
I've gotten
it. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I've tested it
For me. For me, it doesn't work.
I've tested it like younger with my relapses, but I've seen people, I don't think it's statistically the normal thing, right? But my view of things now is so wide because I see all over the world. I definitely see where some people benefit from certain things and some people don't. Like people, for instance, like people that want to be on like an all holistic approach, like I really support that. But like some of those people do smoke. Like if that's beneficial for them and it's not tearing away, it's not like if there's no outside consequences, if you're not seeing consequences, then continuing to do things despite consequences, if it's not affecting interpersonal relationships, and like it's like treated
if it doesn't consume you
as a medicine, you know what I mean? Like not morning, middle, night.
Just recreation.
Just like a medicine or CBD, I could see then because I don't like harming anyone that might help someone's trauma, right?
Sure.
Because
I get that.
a lot of people use it for mental health, and that's completely separate from substance abuse. Substance abuse is one thing that's different because it incorporates mental health, right? Like we're normally what we call dual diagnosis, which means like we have mental health issues and we have substance health.
Exactly.
Normally they intertwine. And so there are some people that have like, and we would still consider those normies, you know what I mean? That can do that and maybe it is beneficial. But for my mental health, drinking and the mainstream stuff isn't beneficial for me because I obsess over it.
I have the same thing that you have, Demetri, which a lot of addicts have, and that's that manipulation. King of it, you know what I mean? Live my life doing it every single day for about 20 years, just trying to work every single angle, and I always got so good at it that I will manipulate myself. You know, it's a bad machine up here. You know what I mean? So that's one of the things. So I think to myself, oh yeah, you can go back to just smoking a little weed here and there. You know what I mean? You never had a problem with that when you were younger. It wasn't until you started drinking heavy and then the cocaine showed up and then the thizzles, which is just garbage can pills. You know what I mean? A little bit of everything in those. You can kind of gauge them off the color, you know what I mean? And what they do to you.
I remember.
You know?
Well,
So yeah, swallowing like 6 or 7 of those a night, you know, and just staying up for a few days. But that's what I can't do. That old cliche of weed being a gateway drug, I don't believe that's true for everybody. But for me, because of the way my mind works, I will talk myself into, you're smoking, bro, and everything's fucking cool. Everything is normal. Everything's chill. There's no problems whatsoever. So you know what? You can have a drink. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know the road that
Yeah.
leads to. You know what I mean? So that's why it's a slippery slope for me. Not for everyone,
Right.
but that's why I can't do it.
For me, same thing, and that is that once I do it, as soon as I do it, I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to get with the next one?
Yep.
And that's that mental switch that turns on for me.
Yeah.
That because you're constantly chasing. Okay, I got to get another bowl. If I'm smoking weed, that's or I got to get another blunt. I don't have another paper. Whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's on. You know?
It's the obsessiveness.
Yeah,
right? Like
obsession.
it's really like it. It would be nice to have it only work where it's like, on an average basis, where like one time in the morning, whatever, like someone we consider responsible dosage is, it'd be nice for that to be like a normal thing for us.
Yeah.
But it's more of like, for me, it's like I learned through my relapses because I engaged in slippery slopes.
Yeah.
It was more for me like I did Russian roulette with it. I tried just smoking. I tried just drinking.
Let's see what happens.
I tried just
different
doing
Let's see what happens. Yeah.
meth and heroin. Like, and
Oh, what are you doing?
once I had got to alcohol, because I was like, then that's pretty much the end of my story. It's like I had started drinking because I got sent back to my high school, and I saw, which means I'm right back to all my homies.
Right where it all started, yeah.
So like they're saying like, oh, you can drink and it'll be fine. I'm like, you know what? Adults drink, like we're talking about right now. It'll be fine. And so I start drinking, and like I said, I hate alcohol. Like, and when I mean this, like I did not enjoy drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
That's why it was always my last go-to. I hated the taste of it.
Right.
It was not fun. I got a weak stomach, so I always throw up, and then I have that more, so I drink despite just having thrown up.
Right.
And so like that's where I knew like it didn't matter what it was, because once I started drinking every day, I knew I hated this. Like I didn't enjoy it, but I'm still willing
But
to
you're
do it.
still willing to do it
day.
every single day.
Yeah. Despite me not liking it, just because I don't want to feel myself.
Right.
I don't want to feel that pain. I don't want to feel that isolation, that feeling like I'm not enough for people, like that feeling like that I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life. Like all these kind of fears that we build up, and then we build all these fears up in our use, right? And then like when we're sober, we feel all of those 10 times harder for that 10 minutes we're sober.
Yeah.
And like that's what got me clean, is like that 10 minutes of like going to go get more dope, or that 10 minutes of like when I first woke up in the morning on my walk to go do some, like that guilt, pain, and like trauma and hurt that I felt in that 10 minutes, because everything just stacks up, and then you feel it when you're sober.
Right.
That's what got me sober.
That's that window. That window where I look at it as my higher power. That's that super small window where he can actually get at me. You know what I mean? Where he can actually be like, hey, finally got your attention for, it's literally 10 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he has your attention for that small amount of time. And if he can get something in there and get it to stick, like, it's crucial, because after that 10 minutes is gone, you're loaded again.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so like you need a combination of those things happening. You're finally clear. You finally are not on it, but you have this. So it brings on a desperation, like, fuck, like I got to do something.
Mm-hmm.
I got to make a change. I got to. So it's what's going to get to you faster, that drink. In my case, the drink, or am I going to go get help?
Yeah.
And it's like they're like right there next to each other.
Right.
Yep. Because it's like eventually like the pain gets so bad to where the drugs can't numb it. You know what I mean? Like the alcohol can't numb it. Like that 10 minutes like becomes more unbearable. And like you said, then your higher power finally speaks, is like you finally eventually hear like, is my pain just going to go on this forever, or am I going to end it? You know what I mean? And like you realize like I can end this. Like, and that's how it was, is like to cut like really the unnecessary part of my story to get to like the important part of the sobriety, is like, long story short, like I started drinking, like I had gotten 60 days, and then my best friend had taken a shotgun to his chest and blew my friend at school taking a shotgun to his chest and blown his chest cavity out, and I relapsed, and my mom woke me up on the side of the house. I was asleep in the dirt, and I called my Monsignor and I asked him, do people that kill themselves go to heaven, you know, and he gave me his answer. And you know, I felt better, but like I was messed up, man, you know? And so like that, then I remember going to my counselor, and this is where I get the phrase I always tell you guys, like, and he had told me, you know, like, you had gotten clean time this time. He's like, you had learned a lot of stuff this time you got clean. You didn't just unlearn all that because you lapsed. Your time may start over, right? But you still have all that sober knowledge. It's just you need to apply it now.
Definitely.
And so then I was like, dang. So the long story short is like, I'm supposed to go to group. I end up I relapse again. I get toasted. Like I can't even make it to group by 3. I'm asleep. And like it gets so bad. My mom has to pick me up. I come out in like just my underwear and like I'm belligerent. She calls my second mom. I calm down, talk to my second mom again. Next day I find out like some stuff went missing from on me, and I was like, oh, that ain't gonna happen. So I go out and basically like like engage in normal stuff, like trying to check my ego and think I'm this big bad whatever, right? And like get hurt, I get jumped, and I get put in the hospital, and then I get out right away because they don't want to help me. And so then it was like right there in that night, like my mom was like, do you want to go back to rehab? And it was like the first time I had ever not put up a struggle. I was like, yeah, I'm fine with that.
Like, let's go.
Like, yeah. I was like, I don't really care. Like I was so done. Broken. Yeah, I was just so done. It was boring, you know, like it had become the same thing over and over again, except like pain, you know, and my whole, like the only reason I did that was like, I felt like my whole life was pain, you know? So like, and then it was like, why am I going to keep introducing pain when I feel like my whole life is pain?
Yeah. You just replicating it over and over again to keep feeling that same pain.
Yeah. And sometimes it was a lot like I felt like I deserved it. You know, like I got comfortable in that pain and that depression. So I would force myself to be that depressed and that in that pain because like that's what I felt like I deserved. And I found that I was like, when I went to rehab, like summing up the end of my story, why that look is so important is like the reason I'm clean today. Like I remember like he is my pops. Like I don't care. Ricky, if you see this, you're my pops. But like a counselor there that I call my pops and his closest thing I have to a dad besides Monsignor I talk about. The way he and another counselor looked at me, her name's Rebecca, the way they looked at me the first day I woke up in that rehab, because I went to that rehab and this one was like way out in San Diego. It looked like a youth authority prison when I got there. It had like
see why?
Like, where'd you send me this time?
I was like, oh, we're not escaping from this one. You know, like. And like the first day I woke up, I had, mind you, this big, ginormous black eye. Like my eye is tenderized, like very nicely protruding from my face. And I sit down and he's just chilling there. And he's just like, he just reminds you of kind of like a 90s hip hop rapper if he was a nerd too. You know? He had the do-rag, he had the backwards fitted cap, but then he was sitting in like a bright green like Michelangelo Ninja Turtle. and he just shined. He had one silver tooth.
Right.
I was like, and he looked at me and like I did not like, I had shaved in the shower for a long time. You know what I mean? I had brushed my teeth in the shower for a long time. I had gotten ready in the shower and like I saw Chris Herron talk about like how he did the same thing because he couldn't look at himself. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And you do that subconsciously sometimes too.
I did that subconsciously because I was subconscious about my weight. I was subconscious about like everything people had told me all my life. I was subconscious about being a drug addict. So like when I viewed myself, like my words to my mom, me and my mom were talking about my friend passing the other day, like when she found me drunk. And my words to her, like when she woke me up, were it should have been me. You know, so and that right there painted exactly how I felt about myself. Like I had a lot of homies die. Rest in peace, Ty Torres and Nick Sterling and Sophia. And like my grandparents had died throughout that time that I was talking about. I watched my whole family die in front of me and go to funerals since 12. So like that survivor's guilt had built up so much. So like when I looked at myself, I saw a piece of trash. You know what I mean? Like I saw the worst kind of human you could be, even though like I wasn't the worst, I still saw it. So when
but you saw it because you see these people taken from us, and then here you are wasting it away.
Yeah, pretty much. You know what I mean? Pretty much like when he had did that to himself, you know, like this was actually it to give you guys like sobriety, the thing that helped me stay sober would be, like this conversation. Like I told you guys, like when we were talking about men's emotions, right? Like I had a counselor sit me inside a room and say, you know, you're going to drop this big boy tough act and you're going to tell me about how each one of your friends that passed away made you feel.
Yeah.
You know? And I remember sitting on a beanbag and saying that exact same thing, you know, like my first thing was like, he would have had a football scholarship. He would have had this, he would have had that. He would have been afford to go to college. He would have, you know, all these things that I felt like you're right. Like I was wasting my life. So why am I still here? I started doing drugs to try to kill myself, just the easy route, but my body could handle drugs to where I could never kill myself, you know? And so like, I felt extreme survivor's guilt. And when I let that go, when I finally told someone about all that, like when I had finally told someone like how much I had missed my friends and how like I felt like I had no place on this earth, like, and they were better off here without me, like that, there was a weight lifted off my life. I cried like so hard, you know,
can only imagine.
And I had never cried really like that much before that, unless like for manipulation or something, you know? So like when I
bust a tear out on a dime.
yeah. You know what I mean? To get myself out of trouble, you know? But like I really genuinely cried. And there's something about crying like that heals you, you know? And like, I think it was more of like people making me feel like I had a place in this world again, you know? And like when I looked at them, when I looked at Ricky and Rebecca that first day in rehab, like the person they saw in their eyes was someone like I never thought, like they saw someone completely different than who was actually in front of them, you know? And like I took that and ran with it. Like I just knew I wanted to be clean. Like it wasn't like the previous times. I knew, hey, I've tried Demetri's way every single way.
Every single way.
I've tried everything, like how the book talks about, like a stereotype. I've literally tried to cut, change my use, try one thing at a time, and it's always led to a still worse relapse, right? So the only way I can get clean or get sober now is just by doing whatever the fuck anyone else who's clean has to tell me to do.
Yeah.
And that's what I did.
Suggestions.
Is like it was a completely different ball game, as is any suggestion was a word of fact for me. You know what I mean? Any piece of wisdom someone could offer me was like a gift, like put into my lap.
Right.
You know? And I took it and I cherished it. And so like between like you know, him installing in me like a good routine, right? Like how big a routine is, like he's the first person to make me do physical like fitness, because I had quit football for a long time, but put me back into the gym there. You know what I mean? Like the first people to show me like kind of, you know, what a healthy like dual parent life would kind of be like, you know, like when stuff happened at the facility, they would take care of me, you know, like I slowly worked on like every single void that had weighed on me, right? Like the pressure of like, you know, trying to be emotionally there for my mom and help her with all of her emotions, because she doesn't really have anyone else to reach out to, you know, like all my homies, and like trying to take care of all of my homies because like I love them so much, you know, and I was young, so I could see how the broken homes were already, you know what I mean? So I could see like that's why I needed to be around my friends, is like I need them to be safe too. I had to work on like people pleasing. I had to work on setting boundaries, you know. I had to work on really like reinventing myself and like respecting myself, which is something I never thought I would do.
That's a lot of work.
That is, I think in the first 365 days, if there's anything, I think you said it the best, and that is that you get to reinvent yourself. You get to really start shining lights on things that you never wanted to face and really start working on it. One other thing that you had mentioned that I wanted to touch on, because I just had this conversation with somebody that is going through it right now, and she's going into a rehab tomorrow. But she, you know, I was trying to encourage her today, and one of the things that I had told her was, look, she said, because if I do this again, or if this is like my last shot, she said, because she says, if this doesn't work, I don't know what will. And I said, look, alluding to what you said, was that now you had like your counselor told you, you had tools now that you didn't just unlearn that stuff. And that's what I was trying to get across to her was, look, you do this, and if you relapse, it's just a relapse.
Yeah.
It's not, it doesn't have to end. It's not the end all be all. Now you know a little bit more about how to get sober and how to stay sober. And no matter how many times it takes, you learn a little bit more each time. And then eventually, hopefully, things will play out the way, the way you can sustain sobriety.
Yeah. That's one motto I like from obviously the place we go to is like planting seeds, saving lives, because like that's the one way recovery is literally how it is, right? It's like through my story, I can tell you this. First rehab, I learned how important like community was. I learned that I'm not alone in this, right? Because no matter what, even if I don't want to get clean, you take me to a meeting or a room, I'm going to see a room full of myself.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
To leave that room knowing that there is still a room
full of people like you,
like me. You know what I mean? That will sit there and love me until I learn to love myself. Because when I hated myself, those big people to small people to all kinds of people that the world looked at differently came up, and each one of them hugged me when I hated myself.
That's right.
Each one of them hugged me and let me talk about how I wanted to kill myself on a mic in front of 30 people, and they came up to me, hugged me, and fixed what I was going through afterwards. And what we have is it's beautiful because it's a love that needs to be spread. But then you can go as like, I still didn't really learn anything through that. I just learned about the community. Right. Then second stay, I learned like how important sober support is, because I actually built a sober support and I got a sponsor for the first time. So I learned how the process works, and I learned how the committee works. So I learned how the fellowship works. Right. So then by the time when I actually got sober, all that had really happened is those seeds grew, and I took advantage of them.
Yeah.
Right. Like when I got out, I had already known that statistically, if you make 90 meetings in 90 days, you are more likely to stay sober. So when I got out of rehab, I knew I was going to make 90 meetings in 90 days.
That's right.
I knew from the first two times that statistically, if you don't go to a meeting when you get out of an inpatient facility the day you get out, odds are you're not going to have a routine of going to a meeting every day, because you've
already started off
establishing a different routine. So I went to a meeting the first day I got out. Right. Like it really, I had picked up a commitment the first week I was out. I was going out of town to, try a different fellowship aimed towards younger people. Right. So like I had learned all these things beforehand through trying to get sober. I had just yet to apply them fully without hesitation or doubt, like 100% how the fellowship says it, right? How the book says it. Like all of these done without a doubt, done like living by spiritual principles, living by the program, like
rigorous honesty, all those
honesty. You will get clean, but it's applying that every single day. And like a person that helped me get clean a lot said it best, is like getting sober is a lifestyle, right? Meaning like when we talk about character defects, it goes to the root of the character defects. Like, meaning when I got sober, I haven't stolen anything since July 1st, 2016.
Nice.
I would like to say I have not committed like I've not committed any violent crimes.
Right.
I've not done anything as of that's not Demetri as I am today. You know what I mean? Like, and that's where
that's really wild. I didn't think about it like that, because I couldn't keep my sticky hands to myself for 30 some odd years, and I haven't stolen anything since August 17th for sure. Yeah.
And she explained it to me like that. You know what I mean? It's a lifestyle choice. It goes deeper than not just using drugs. It's in your everyday choices as who you are as a person. That's what sobriety means. You know what I mean? Like, so it's in like, that's how I'm so of service. Like she's the reason I'm so of service, because if it can be done, you know what I mean? If you can be of service, like you should always take into account someone else's or what you can do for someone else. And she showed me that like through the full extent, like gave me all my knowledge, and is why I'm so hungry on like being of service to people when I can, because she showed me the power, and that really comes with like, you can do so much to change someone's day. You know, it's very simple
Right,
to
right.
change someone's day completely around. You know, like you can go as far as like say she was, where she would let newcomers live at her apartment as long as they were willing to go to meetings 7 days a week. She had like 3 beds in a
Yeah.
1-bedroom apartment, you know, like, and just trying to get people clean. And like that dynamic also showed me like when you're working with people as vulnerable as we are, like there's a lot of compassion that needs to go into
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
Meaning like kind of like why I'm
Requires
so touchy with the gateway subject, right? Is like there's so many different people in this world. I don't want to offend someone that may have some trauma to where
Right.
that works for their trauma, you know?
Exactly.
Just like this story I'm about to say is like I wish people like throughout the world or with certain topics, you know, we're just nicer to each other and more understanding that we can have a difference of opinion or just more understanding of like where someone come from. Like,
Yeah, for sure. I was just going to say that, you know, here we are. Not the three of us probably would have never hung out outside of recovery.
No, even though we're all addicts, we were doing our own type of addiction things. We probably wouldn't have came into the same circles.
So I mean, it just, and here we are. You know, we're able to have a conversation. You know, and learn stuff from each other. Mm-hmm. And it's just, you know, we have a common interest and we have a common theme. I do, before we go and before we wrap up, I always ask 2 questions. And my first question is, what would you tell your 15-year-old self?
so that's funny because it actually gives me, we might have to do a part 2 because I have to get to the sobriety, but this is a perfect question because it'll let me touch on basically what I want to get to in the true part of telling my.
We don't have to stop anytime soon.
You're good.
Yeah.
Oh no, you're good. Actually, can you ask me the question one more time? Because I was so hyped over the question.
Okay. What would you tell your 15-year-old self?
Okay, there we go. So I remember what I was going to say now. So the reason this question is so special to me, right, is like when I get to my story, obviously, like, and from what I've told you guys about my trauma I've experienced in sobriety, right, is like that 2020 year, right, where like I had a client pass away. I had my best friend's brother overdose, and then my best friend that same year, like it completely changed the way like I counsel and view people, right? I became way more like into myself and how do I make myself genuinely happy, you know, for the first time, because there's things like that obviously no one will get their perfect recovery in their first year, their second year, the third year. I mean, there's always something to work on, or there's always a character defect that might arise from something else.
Right.
And so what I would tell myself is you need to be more compassionate to yourself. Like 100%, you need to learn to love yourself and be unapologetically you. You know what I mean?
To yourself.
I would tell myself, find out who you are, right? All the things you love in life, all the things that give you tinglies when you do them, right? Like the hobby that makes you feel like you're on top of the world or you're the coolest person ever. Follow that and don't ride that till the wheels fall off. You know
That's
what I mean?
right.
Go for your dreams because everything's attainable, but be compassionate. Like for me, when I work with my teens, I meet them where they're at. Like when I work with teens, how I feel like I excel well is like I ask the questions that weren't asked to me when I was a teen, right? Which is like, why do you hurt so much? You know what I mean? Because like that was a question I don't think we ask people a lot. Like, and I ask you guys that. I try to ask you guys stuff like that, and that's where you guys see it in my. I try to get and ask the questions that I wish someone asked me while I was using,
Right.
and that's really my basis of it. Is like,
So that's where that comes from.
yeah, it comes from like that hurt little kid that didn't have no family, didn't have anyone, that just wished someone really asked like, why are you doing all this?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and it's not like anyone's responsibility because it's like I was responsible and I caused all the pain in my life, you know, from my use. But had someone stop, or I had like, of course we do what ifs, or like had someone, all I can say is from that, all I wanted at that point of view was someone probably to hug me and sit there and say that.
Say
You know
that.
what I mean? Because I didn't want to feel responsible for everything.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's
That's
real.
awesome. then the second question I have is, what would you tell somebody that realizes they have a problem and is thinking about getting help? What would you tell that person?
What I would tell them is everything's going to be okay. Like the way you're hurting right now, all three of us in this room have heard the same way. And it will be different because trauma is different in each and every way, but like it can be healed. And we're here to help you. You know, like this community, one thing I tell you is don't be afraid to go into a community that's going to sit there and love you until you love yourself, right? And what I mean by that is it's like around like 5 or 10% of people stay sober, right? Like, and that's not a statistic I say to scare you, but like if you look at that 5%, like including this, like we take care of each other, right? Meaning like if you're worried and want to get clean right now and you can look me in my eyes and see me, like that means if you come to somewhere I'm at, I'm going to take care of you. Meaning wherever your local area is, they will take care of you if you let them though. Like it's 100% up to you. It's 100% doable, but you have to open up your heart and like want to come in with open arms and listen. And I guess the last thing I would say is like, don't be so hard on yourself and don't hurt forever. Like come over to the love side. Like we'd love to see you over here. Like, and
Sure
if anything, just make it one more day for me, really, please.
Yeah. Well, like my kids say, let's go.
Shit, Demetri, man, we appreciate you coming in,
dude,
man. That was
this is cool.
kicking back, you know what I'm saying, in a different scene than where we usually kick back at, you know what I mean?
It's nice to take the counselor badge off and just be a person.
You know what I mean, for real.
I don't get to do it that often, and I the only reason I do it is I love being with people in recovery. So like doing stuff like this, it allows you guys get to see the real me versus
Right.
You know, like I'm not disingenuous, but I'm a lot more like I'll tell you guys about myself, my pain versus like if I'm out there, I'm gonna be trying to.
I don't know what's up. Like,
if I'm out counseling, like I'm focused on everyone else, you know what I mean? Because that's my job. If I'm at a meeting, I'll do a little bit of both, but even me, I tend to be the people pleaser, so I'm more of service, right? So
Exactly.
you guys get to see me, like while I'm here, be a little bit selfish, I guess, and talk about myself too, you know?
that's good.
That's what we want to
That's
hear,
the whole
man.
point, you know, to
It
have
is.
you come on. You know, it's crazy how you talk about the community. I posted that I took a picture of my little chip and I put it out there on Twitter. And I don't have very many followers on Twitter. I'm not very good at it, but there's like 27 followers.
Yeah.
So I put it out there and I didn't think nothing of it. I just did it. I came back like a day later. It was on Sunday. On Saturday I did it because that's when I got my chip. Sunday I looked at it, the thread or whatever, and there was like 1,500 people had seen it, and like 7 people retweeted it. 100 and something people have commented. Congratulations.
Love.
I don't even know these people.
So much
You know,
love.
I know if I'm on Facebook or Instagram, those are people that I know.
Right.
On Twitter, I don't know any of these people.
Yeah.
Except for Lindsay, who was on the podcast. But that's it. You know, I don't know anybody. You know, so to that community that you talk about is huge, and you hear, you know, even to go back to like the guys you were saying, you know, you learn something new every year or every day. I see those guys like when I see guys in their 30 years, they have 30 years and they're struggling, and you're like, wow. So then there is something more to learn. They're learning something too, you know. So I don't know what that's going to be. I can't fathom what that looks like, even for me. But man, I want to. If this is how good I feel all the time, I'm all game, man. I'm for
Got
it.
that right.
It's a blessing, and I think for me, like I'd spent the reason I say that is I spent a long time neglecting like my inner feelings about myself.
Right.
Like my self-confidence was still wavering. I still had issues in my head about my weight, and and different opinions of people had of me, and like
Yeah.
and so I think like as you go, like really like I was happy my first 3 years, and then like obviously 2020 happened, and
Yeah.
you know, like it's for me, it was more of a new ball game dealing with all the deaths that I had, because like for me, like just being honest, I guess with everyone, is like I had it in my head, of course, like the justification of like I could use right now and no one would blame me. You know what I mean? I've gone through so much, like I could go out right now. I could end it right now, you know,
Yeah.
because and this was like the love I had between my friend. Like before he died, like there's blood promises that I would do something to myself if he passed, you know what I mean? And what I mean by community and love, and especially for you people struggling out here, like my best friend's last words to me before he passed, he called me DB. This is another joke on my body back in the day, even though it doesn't look like it now. It's like they called me DB for divorced body, saying I got the body of a divorced dad. But he said, he's like, DB, and this is a day before, this is the last words he ever said to me. He said, DB, I love life. I love life. I love life. I love life. I wish you loved life like I love life. Like I love life. I love life. Because I was way more of a negative person than you guys see now. Like I really was. Like I was more of a realist, you know? And then that was the last time I saw him. You know, I came back. I got shaken up the next day. And my mom was on the phone, and I just heard something, Cam, and I didn't, no shirt, no shoes, just threw on pants and ran over to his house and came over and saw the tinfoil and the straw. The last, you know, really the last thing I had of my homie at that point, you know what I mean? Because they had taken the body already. And so it was more of like, how do I learn to love life again? You know, because like when he passed, like I had a lot of people pass, and I went to a lot of funerals sober, and it sucked. You know what I mean? It's hard, and it took like coping skills. It took me seeing my therapist. It took me calling sober support every hour of every day. Like I would call Lisa every day. I would call her friend that was my sponsor every day. Right. And I would call Jim about every day. Yeah. You know, like I would have 3 separate people I would call every day at different times of the day, and they would answer every time, single day. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so it was hard when like he passed, like finding because I had started to realize the symbolism of life. And for me, like, I think like as sad as it sounds, I had originally got on this path of like being a counselor and wanting to help people, all for the sole fact of like, I wanted to help my homies. You know what I mean? Right. And one by one, I watched each as my homies died. And then like when he died, cause he's my best friend, like my best friend lived across the street from me since I was 4 years old. And so I never had a death where it like killed me inside. Like I am a completely different person as I am today than I was before he passed. So what I would definitely say is like, I wish you love life. I hope you learn to love life like I did. And like live by the saying, cherish the day. You know what I mean? Every day is beautiful, and there's something to cherish in it, like something to learn, something to be happy about. Sometimes you have to kill your old life in order for like a new beautiful one to grow. Or
ain't that the truth? Yeah.
100%. Like I don't like TikTok, but I did see a TikTok where she was like, because I've always been a suicidal person, right? Like suicide is a part of my story. Like I've had attempts. And so like when TikTok's like all mental health, of course, obviously. You know what I mean? So right. She was like, you know, a lot of people, and I've been suicidal, and a lot of people, I understand how I was, but I see now, like I was willing to end my life before even just not accepting it, starting over, trying a new one. Like basically think of it like a video game, right? Yeah, like if you don't like Call of Duty, reset it. Go try World of Warcraft. Try something Overwatch, different. Yeah. Right? Like I was willing to kill myself on World of Warcraft or I feel because I was stuck as Demetri the drug addict, Demetri the kid with no dad, when I could have just tried being Demetri the you know parent, Demetri the responsible son, right? Yeah. Demetri the counselor, Demetri the musician, Demetri, like whatever I want to be. You know what I mean? Like you gotta invent your life for you. And that's one thing is like I didn't feel like life was just hitting me with stuff anymore. I felt like I was planning on where I want to go and what I want. Like my goals, like they weren't just recovery. Like I want to be genuinely anxiety free. I want to work on trauma. I want to work on my PTSD. I want to, not have as many bipolar freakouts, like stuff like that. So, but my last words, since I went way long winded as in my fashion, I would think of,
it wouldn't be a good episode
if it didn't go.
It wouldn't be Demetri's episode. If we didn't go a little bit longer than usual.
Yeah, but we'll do a part 2, man.
Yeah, we can do a part 2, honestly.
Or we can just start in the morning on all of our day off, and we'll just switch locations, and we'll just talk for 8 hours all day long.
I'll bring 2 sets of clothes, and we can
now we're talking. Now we're talking.
I've learned some tips and tricks. Like you can get 3 episodes a day.
Just change some clothes up and whatnot. All right.
I ought to bring my different hats because I wear the same thing all the time.
Just switch your hat. They'll think it's a different day. Yeah.
Our little clothing rack will be my 3 different outfits of like something really flashy. The Mel will have something really flashy, and then Sam's wardrobe is going to be 3 black t-shirts,
pretty much
3 black. I'm assuming Levi's or Dickies pants,
Yep.
and then 3 black moccasins.
Yep.
There we go. 1 pair of Crocs.
One pair of Crocs.
Just in case.
Just in case I'm feeling fresh.
You want to put them in sport mode and gotta take off or something.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, fellas.